There are over 100,000 people who immigrate to New Zealand every year with the intention to make New Zealand their home, leaving behind everything they know as normal day-to-day life and having to learn new ways of doing things, new norms, new cultures, and different values. There are many people who struggle with this transition and find it challenging to adjust and settle, so they can call and make New Zealand their home. The purpose of this podcast is for me to share my journey and our challenges with the hope that you can learn from me and my family and have a softer landing. There will be good days and bad days, but with time, more good days. I believe we have made the right choice for our family. I want to try and help you do the same, but hopefully with a softer landing. This is Soft Landing, and I am your host, Brett Corlett.
Welcome to this podcast, designed for anyone thinking about preparing for or who has just immigrated to New Zealand. Subscribe now so you never miss an episode. Drawing from his personal experience, this series will guide you through the process of preparing for your move and helping you navigate the challenges of immigration.
Hello everybody, welcome back. For those who are joining me again and listening to my podcast on a regular basis, and I just wanted to thank those that are listening for the first time. It's great to have you join us. I would ask, if you do have some time, please go back to episode number 1. I am trying to share my journey and my story in chronological order, and I know a lot of the other guys that listen regularly now think, oh geez, does he have to repeat this every single time? But it's for all those new people. Please go back to number 1. There's a lot of information that I'm trying to share along the way, and tidbits and whatever else that I'm hoping will actually help you on your journey and help you when you do make your move and come join us here in New Zealand, that it'll be a lot easier for you guys. So please go back to the first episode and listen from there. It also gives you a chance just to get to know me a little bit better and understand who I am and, you know, who's this guy that's trying to share his journey and his ideas and his recommendations and whatever else and lessons learned. Why should we listen to him? Why should we even consider what he has to say? So it'll just help you get to know me a little bit better. So please go back to the first episode if this is your first one. Otherwise, let me get on with what I want to chat about today. So I know in my last episode, it was a little different. I didn't just share the journey and my story. We got into a little bit of detail around actual living expenses and cost of living in New Zealand, particularly up here for a family of 4 in Auckland, and my opinions on what those costs would be. So if that does interest you, please go back to this previous episode, look it up. And over and above the episode that I did on the podcast, I am working on a YouTube video or tutorial that I'll hopefully get launched soon. So you can actually not only have to listen to me, but I'll show you visuals of the actual templates and everything as well. So hopefully that'll be out soon. But today, I want to continue my story a little bit more. So where I last left off with the journey was we had just moved up to the North Shore, and we were finally in our, what would actually be our 3rd rental within probably 6 weeks of being in New Zealand. So if you listen to the other episodes, you'll know why we moved around so much. But we finally found a home. We're finally in a position where we could start settling down. So really 6 weeks in, what we started doing was now all that furniture that we had bought, all the flat pack, we could start unpacking that. We could start just actually making it feel a little bit more like a home. For example, getting those beds built for the kids. We were still sleeping on blow-up mattresses, although we had the one king-size bed. We had also bought my daughter a bed now that I had to build. So I built her bed and her bedside units, all flat pack. I did the same for my son. His was also flat pack, built that all out. Our dining room table and chairs, also flat pack. So not the most expensive stuff that we went for. What we really went for is we went for what works. It was good enough. You know, I know back in South Africa a lot of the time we really bought really good quality stuff. But for now, getting us started, it was good enough getting the flat pack. Over and above the flat pack, there was actually a lot of deals that you could get from people with secondhand stuff. So if you had to get onto the, we looked on Facebook on Marketplace, but over and above Marketplace is just your Facebook groups. If you could get onto the groups for your area, a lot of people are even donating stuff that they're not using anymore or selling it for next to nothing. And a lot of the stuff could be in good condition. Over and above that, you could also look at a lot of like swap shops. So all these charity shops, a lot of people take their stuff there, and they sell good quality stuff for a really reasonable price as well. So there was a lot of ways, and cost-effective ways, you could actually kit out your home. That's really where we were at now, is starting to get the house kitted out, starting to make it feel a little bit more like home, having a dining room seat to sit at, having a lounge area where we had a couch and we had a TV that wasn't sitting on top of boxes or on the floor, actually on a TV unit, starting to get beds for everybody in the home. So it was nice to start getting that all set up. One of the things that was different for us in the home is back in South Africa, when we would get a rental, it would be empty. And when I mean empty, it didn't have curtains, didn't have blinds a lot of the time, sometimes blinds, but definitely not curtains. Whereas here we were finding the rentals, they do come with either blinds or curtains. So it wasn't something we had to invest in. We had packed a whole lot of our curtains and everything into the container, which was on its way to us at that point in time. But it turns out we're not even going to be using them because all rentals that we've been in thus far, they've all been kitted out with curtains as well as blinds. Also with the weather here, and what we weren't used to is the different daylight saving. So back in South Africa, your days were pretty even throughout winter. Yeah, they shortened a little, but there was no daylight saving or turning clocks back or forward. That's a new concept for us moving to New Zealand. So with here, what happens is in winter, your days do get a lot shorter, but in summer your days get a lot longer, to where the sun only starts going down after 9 p.m. at night. So you really have long days. But what that does mean is sometimes you need those different type of blackout curtains, those curtains that can really block out the sun, or blinds that block out the sun. So it probably makes sense why a lot of the houses have it all kitted out already. A lot of the curtains we were going to be bringing in our container weren't even going to be the right type of curtains, and they probably wouldn't block out the sun enough. And probably with the harsh sun here, they would probably get damaged within next to no time anyway. So anyway, enough about curtains. Just letting you know that's not something you would have to worry about. But yes, starting to get all the rest of your stuff all kitted out. What we had done is, in our container, we had put a lot of the stuff that was sentimental to us, or stuff that was irreplaceable. So that's why we said no. Fridges, washing machines, dining room suites, lounge suites, TVs, all that kind of stuff we could build up again. I mean, we didn't have anything that was really super new. Yes, some furniture that was nice, but again, we were worried about the size of the houses, what would fit in and not fit in, and then what would we do for the first few months, waiting for the stuff to arrive anyway. So we opted no. We were going to buy a lot of that stuff and just buy what's good enough, and that's what we were doing. All the sentimental stuff, family heirlooms, all that kind of stuff was on the container, and that's what would arrive a couple of months later. So that's pretty much how we started kitting out our house. While waiting for the container, one of the other things that was different for me was we were now in a unit where we had a little bit of a garden and there was a little bit of grass, which meant I needed to maintain that. We were very spoilt back in South Africa, where we would have a garden service that would do our gardens for us, and it's pretty much been like that most of my life. So no, not pretty much, it has been like that most of my life, where I haven't had to cut grass and tend to the garden. If I worked in the garden, it was because I wanted to. It wasn't because I had to. So now for the first time, I had to make sure that the lawns were cut on a regular basis, and the gardens were tidied up and neat. What this meant is, and I know a lot of people will laugh at me, I had to learn how to use a lawnmower for the first time, a weed eater for the first time, and a lot of firsts for me. So yeah, like a little bit of a stalker, what I started doing in the home we were in. Luckily my neighbor, he cut his grass pretty regularly. I'd spy on him while he was doing it the first few times to try get a little bit of an idea of how to do this, and what sort of lawnmower I should buy and what sort of weed eater I should buy, so that when I went to either Bunnings or Mitre 10 or wherever I was going to buy it from, I would hopefully buy the right thing. That said, what I ended up doing is, because of budget, I bought an electric lawnmower, but one that was on a cord, as well as a battery weed eater. Battery weed eater worked perfect for me. I was happy with it, but it was one with blades, not with the actual weed eater wire or cable. Probably better would have been to go for the one with the cable versus the one with blades, because the blades didn't last very long and you'd have to change them quite regularly, but it did work well, and I loved the idea that it was cordless, and you just need to charge the batteries. Probably pro tip is get 2 batteries, so while you're using the one, you could have the other on charge, which would work quite nicely. But again, it depends on your budget. Buying the electric lawnmower with a cord, I do regret that. It is a pain in the butt, really trying to mow your lawn and having this cord that you've got to constantly move out of the way. So that is one thing that I did regret, and I very quickly, once I had a little bit of extra cash and was able to save up, changed that out. And I opted to go for an electric battery or battery lawnmower. So I've gone for Bosch, which I'm very happy with, and it works well. Just make sure you get one with enough wattage so that it's strong enough to actually handle the lawn, especially if you leave it for a week or 2 where it's grown quite long and you need to cut the grass and the battery isn't too weak, or the motor isn't too weak so that it can't work. Again, get more than one battery if you can, because depending on the size of your lawn, you're probably going to need 2-3 batteries to get through the whole lawn, depending on how big it is. So for the house that we had at that stage, I needed 2 batteries for the weed eater to get around the whole front garden and the back garden, and then the lawnmower I only got when I moved into the next unit, which is the one I'm in now, but I need probably about 2 batteries there also to do the lawn, both front and back. But that's one of the things you've got to keep in mind. Over and above the actual lawnmower and weed eater, you also need to make sure that you've got a green bin. So for all the waste, you've got to be able to get rid of it. I've heard of some people putting it in their general red waste bin. I don't think that's the right thing to do. I don't think you're allowed to be doing that. You should be putting it in a separate bin. So what we've done is we've actually got a green bin. That green bin is through Econowaste for where we are. I'm sure depending on where you end up in New Zealand, they got different companies that you would be able to get a green bin from. The green bin, you pay a once-off per year. So we paid $100 per year for that green bin, and then they collect once a month. So you could put all your garden refuse, so like your lawn offcuts, etc. you could put into that, and they collect it once a month. Only thing that I did find is if you start trying to prune back trees and really get stuck into the garden, you can fill up that green bin very quickly, and then you can have a problem where you don't have enough space in the bin because it only gets collected once a month. So just watch that as well. But yes, it was nice to be able to get into a garden again. Again, being a rental, you don't want to spend and invest too much money on the gardens, but it is your responsibility most of the time on rentals to keep the garden up to speed and kept. So you would need to get yourself some sort of gardening equipment like a lawnmower, weed eater, and a bin as a bare minimum. Pardon. So that was getting that all sorted out. While we were in the new place, one of the other things that we were doing is, besides making it feel like home, we're starting to get to know the neighborhood now and looking at the schools. So originally, where we had ended up a little bit further south, closer to CBD, where our first unit was flooded and the second unit that we didn't like was, we had a school in mind for my son, which is obviously not going to be the school anymore because now we've moved a little bit further north. So we had to look at some other schools. We did look at the schools before we moved into this rental. So we already had a school in mind. The school that we had in mind was a semi-private school, which we were very keen to get my son into. Problem though was there's a waiting list for us to get him into that school, and there were a few hoops that you had to jump through to get him into that school as well. There'd be interviews and a whole lot of other stuff that we had to do and certain criteria that you had to meet. They do this when it is a semi-private or private school. They are not governed by zone, so they don't have to let anybody in. They can choose who they do allow into their school. But that was the school we had chosen. So what we did is we did put him onto the waiting list, as well as my daughter onto the waiting list. But we didn't know how long it could take. It could take anywhere up to a year to be able to get him into that school. We weren't in a rush to get my son into school straight away. So we're probably sitting now, with my timeline on the journey, sitting about 6 weeks in country, and we still hadn't got my son into school. I think we left it probably for the first 2 to 3 months. I don't remember the exact timeline, but it was at least 2 to 3 months before we got him into school. We rather let him get settled. He spent some time at home, spent some time with my wife, taking the kids out and around the neighborhood, getting to know their new country, new neighborhood before we even got him into school. And he's caught up beautifully. He's doing extremely well. There's no pressure to get your kids straight into school unless, like I've mentioned before, you're both working and you need to be able to get the kids into school so that you would have time to be able to work yourself. Then that's a different story. For us, my wife was taking the first year just to settle the family and make it home. So we had that luxury where she could stay at home and we didn't have to rush to get the kids into school. So we had my son on the waiting list for the semi-private school in the area, but what we opted to do is then actually put him into the public school in the area. So again, there's some criteria and everything that you have to go through to get them enrolled. I will do a separate podcast on getting your kids into school with more detail, and I'll probably include my wife in on that one because she was very involved there. But getting him into the public school that we were zoned for in the area wasn't too difficult, got him in. Some costs were involved with getting him his uniform and a couple of fees that you have to pay depending on what classes that he was involved in and what he was going to be doing as per his curriculum. So there are some costs that you need to budget for. When I do the schooling one, I'll get into more detail around the budgeting around schooling. But we got him into the local school. I think he started in term 2 because we arrived here in end of January, beginning of February, and I think he only started in term 2, so he didn't start in term 1, which was fine, and he was able to catch up and do well, so there was no issues there. My daughter, who was younger, she's 5 years old now, so at that time she was 2 turning 3, so she was young and would still need to get into a kindy. So what we did is the same thing. We didn't rush into getting her into a kindy, but we did start investigating kindies in the area. We didn't move to the area with the kindy in mind because kindy would only be until she was 5 years old. So we knew we would find one in the area and it should be okay. It was more important for us to find a school, a primary school and high school in the area and be zoned for those schools. Or have a semi-private or private school that you intend on sending them to that was close to home. So that was what we made our decision about the area. It was based on that sort of schooling for our kids, not the kindy. That said, we did find a kindy in the area to get my daughter into. With government here, they pay for the first 20 hours a week. So they claim it back from government, the first 20 hours. So you don't have to pay for the first 20 hours. But if you do opt to send your kids to kindy for full day or longer than the 20 hours a week, you would have to pay that additional. And depending on the kindy that you send them to is depending on what the cost would be. When I do the schooling, again, as I said, not only for my son who was in, I think he started, when we were here, it was year 7. So we'll talk with what's relative to us, which was my son moving into year 7 in a government school, and then also talk through how he had the opportunity to move to the semi-private school that we were on the waiting list for. And we'll talk to my son who was 3, how we got her into kindy and changed the different kindies, and I'll talk to some of that now, as well as how she's just started primary school now. But I'll do that all on a separate podcast around schooling. But getting back to it, so my son was we got him into the public school, so it was year 7 that we got him into. And then my daughter, we got her into a kindy. It was a little bit out of the way, but we got her into a kindy and we opted just to use the 20 hours. We weren't going to pay extra because my wife was still at home, but just to get her used to getting like a play group, getting to know other kids her age, and just giving my wife a little bit of time as well. It was important to get her into kindy and also building up. It was important to have her attend a kindy so it could work her towards getting ready for primary school. So we got her into the kindy for the 20 hours a week. We just went for the mornings, so it was from 8:30 we'd probably drop her off round about there, and then pick her up at either 11:30, 12 o'clock. So that's the times that she was there from Monday to Friday. There were some days that she missed, but most of the time we sent her there Monday to Friday. What we also found with the kindies is the kindies don't tend to close down over any periods of the bigger schools closing for term breaks. Kindies don't seem to close for that. They do close over the year end, over Christmas and New Year, so they do close there, and public holidays. But other than that, they're open pretty much most of the time, the kindies. Whereas the actual public schools, they have term breaks in between. So you will have to also work around when you've got the term breaks, what do you do with your kids in that gap? Maybe that's something we'll talk about on the school podcast as well. But we got my daughter into a kindy near the school, so that was one of the other things that we needed to just get sorted out. It was a little bit of a challenge in the beginning with my daughter attending the kindy. There was a little bit of separation anxiety, and it was a bit tough for her in the beginning, and actually probably for us as parents. It's very hard leaving your little one behind, and they're crying and they're really upset, and all they want is you. Although the schools do reassure you once you had left that they were happy and content, but we saw at the first kindy, my daughter just didn't seem to fit in as well. She just didn't seem as happy, didn't connect and make as many friends. So eventually, after a couple of months, my wife and I made the call that we were going to try a different kindy. And there was a different kindy that was part of the semi-private school that we had them on the waiting list for. So they had a kindy as well. We got her onto that waiting list, and they finally got back to us with an opening for her for the kindy of that semi-private school, and that's where we actually moved her across. And it's actually worked out beautifully. She's done exceptionally well at that kindy. Again, we only sent her for the 20 hours a week. We didn't send her for any extra. It did cost a little bit more because it's a semi-private kindy, but it wasn't a hell of a lot more. I think, oh man, on the schooling one, I'll get into the actual detail, but let me rather do that, because then I'll have the detail of the amount that my wife was contributing towards that. But it wasn't a lot, and she went just for the 20 hours a week. So again, it was from about 8:30 to 11:30 every single day, but she integrated really well, started making a lot of friends, and you could just see the development over the year and a bit that she's been there. I can talk now because obviously we're a bit into the future, but she's done extremely well. So it was a good move moving her to the other kindy. But I guess that's another point. If your kids you find a kindy and it's not working for you at the one you're at, there are options to move them around depending on the area you're looking in, but we had options around us. So there's always something you can do to try change and make things better. So that was one of the other things that we started doing in the time that we were settling, now that we found a home, was getting the kids into schooling. As I said, don't rush to get them in our opinion. We took the time to get them settled first before we got them into school. I mean, it's a huge adjustment for the kids, never mind yourselves. But they probably adjust better, to be really honest, and they settle a lot better, especially once they've made friends. Once they've made friends at schools, then they really start doing well, and you can see how everything changes, which is what's happened for both my son and for my daughter. So they've done well. So this is what we did in the first few months of being in our new rental and being in country. One of the big things was waiting for our container. Our container probably took around about, I think it was 4.5, 5 months to arrive from South Africa to New Zealand. So it was quite a wait for the container to get here. One of the big things that we chose with our container, and it wasn't a full container we took, but I'm so grateful we took it. It was the option for door to door. So what they did is they helped us pack up in South Africa. So when I say pack up, they were in our house, bubble wrapping and boxing everything that we were planning on taking with and labeling it, taking it in a truck, taking it all the way through to eventually putting it into the container, getting on the ship, bringing it all the way this side, getting it off the ship, putting it on a truck, and taking it right to the door of the rental that we were in. And even although we had changed the address for the third time with them while it was in transit on the ship, it was still not an issue for them. We could just keep updating them on the latest address on this side in New Zealand, and they finally delivered our contents of our container to the rental that we were in. What was nice about the door-to-door, over and above them packing it up on the South African side, also on this side, what they did is they help you unpack and also help you carry all the stuff into whichever rooms that you want within the house, especially if you've got larger items. It did help. So we had some family heirloomed, like old furniture that was antiques and stuff that my wife wanted us to bring across. We brought those across, which were a bit heavy, especially the type of wood that they were made from. So it was good to have some help carrying those into the different rooms. Over and above just having that help, what was also nice is they will come back a few days later once you've unpackaged everything. So you've taken all the bubble wrap and the boxing and everything off. They'll come back and fetch all of that and get rid of it. And why I say that is such a nice help is back in South Africa, what we could do with all our rubbish is just put it in the bin and it would get taken away. Or I could drive it to a dump nearby and just dump it. It wasn't an issue. They weren't so big on recycling back in South Africa. Over here, they're very big on recycling. So what would happen is all the polystyrene you cannot put in your general waste bin, and there's only certain places you can actually get rid of your polystyrene, for example. So what I found is with polystyrene, for example, is you could go to the Mitre 10s, which is a DIY like building supplies company. They had like a container outside their entrance for polystyrene. So you could take all your polystyrene there and dump it with them if you had a whole lot of polystyrene. So that's the way I could get rid of polystyrene. So look at your Mitre 10s for getting rid of polystyrene, especially if you're buying new appliances. There's always polystyrene in all of those shipments, so you have to get rid of that. Then the other thing we had to get rid of is boxes. So if you've got a whole lot of the boxes, especially if you've got a whole container full, or you bought a whole lot of new stuff, flat pack, other furniture, appliances, whatever, it all comes in boxes. Yes, you can break it all up, which you can do, and put into your yellow recycling bin, but it'll fill up very quickly and you'll have to keep a pile, and over a couple of weeks, months, eventually get rid of all of it. Or you can drive it to your local waste. So up here, it's Econo Waste. They do have a waste center that you could take it through to, but then there's a cost involved in trying to get rid of it in that sort of way. There is also containers at different centers, like your Mitre 10. You could take it to a Mitre 10 and they would take some of the boxes, some of them, not all of them, so you could do that as well. So it was just a mission to be able to get rid of all of your boxes, polystyrene and that kind of stuff. So it really did help with the company we signed up with Door to Door, that they could come back, collect it all and get rid of it for you. It was just a help in getting rid of it quickly. Another thing that we really did with the container, now that we had all the stuff, this is where we're really starting to make the house feel like home, the rental feel like home. Because now you started getting, over and above the stuff you had bought to make it, in inverted commas, feel like home, you had stuff that you were familiar with. It was your family heirlooms, it was your pictures and paintings that you're used to, your ornaments and everything else that you're familiar with, that made your home feel like home. That had finally arrived, which really did help us feel more settled. Especially the kids, a lot of their toys would have arrived. We brought a lot of their toys with, their toy boxes, with all their trinkets and everything else. So it was nice for them. Yes, we brought some in the carry-on luggage, pardon, but you couldn't bring everything. There was a whole lot of stuff you couldn't. There's just not enough space in your carry-on luggage. So a lot of the other stuff had now arrived. So it really just helps them settle and feel more like home. Challenging thing with a rental though is back in your own home, if you own it, you can go and knock a nail in the wall and you can hang up your own pictures. First problem here is, yes, it's a rental, so you can't just go and knock a nail in the wall unless you knock a nail in the wall, but then if you move out of that rental, you're going to have to be liable to fix all the walls and make sure that there's no more nails left in all the walls and you don't damage them when you do your exit interview of the rental that you're in. Also, the other challenge is, back in South Africa, we have concrete walls or brick walls, so very different hanging a picture on a brick wall versus drywalling. Drywalling is very different, so it was a learning curve on how to do that, especially in a rental. So one of the things I have found is you can go to your local hardware store and there are these stick-ons that you can buy for different weight. So it's like double-sided tape almost, that with Velcro, so that you can hang up your pictures on the walls. So we found that works really well. Just make sure you buy the right weight compared to whatever you're hanging on it. And what we did is we even doubled up or tripled up on the amount of them that we used as hooks or double-sided like Velcro type stuff to stick them on the wall. But it worked really well. We did have some that if you put them in a warm room in the summer and the sun came in, it would heat them up and then they would lose their stickiness and they would fall off the wall. So you could get a fright in the middle of the night where you have a picture falling off the wall. So really make sure you use enough of them, and ones that are more heavy duty and can carry the load. And just think about which rooms and how much heat is coming through in summer and sunlight directly on them, which could heat them up and make them fall off the walls. But that was a way we could hang up a lot of the pictures and really make it feel like home. Some people I've known, they go ahead and they put like little tacks and nails and everything in the wall. Just bear in mind, if you do that, you get these kits and you've got to actually fix the holes and everything like that and then repaint and try and match the paint and everything. So it can be a bit of a challenge. It's not necessarily not allowed. It just is more effort, and I believe with the rentals it's just a lot easier to be able to use this double-sided sticky hooks and stuff and Velcro that we use to put up the paintings. Also, what you've got to remember with a rental on this side, and I will do a separate podcast around rentals, is they do inspections every 3 months. Well, most agencies do. So what they'll do is every 3 months they'll contact you and schedule a time to come have a look and check in on you on the rental. Now, I found this a bit of a challenge. I've never rented before. So our entire life, we've always been blessed and lucky enough to own our property. So we've never had to rent and have somebody, almost like I felt, invade your space and check up on you. That I guess it's just a mind shift and stuff that you got to learn, and I understand why they do it. They're making sure for the landlord that the house is kept and in a good condition and you're not damaging it. I get it, but it did take a bit of getting used to. It did feel like for the first few times, every time they contacting you to come in and every 3 months to have a look, it was like invading your privacy, and really having a look. And what I found is some of the agents would even say, no, you don't need to be home. They can come through and just look through the house themselves when you're not here. We opted not to. We asked them, please no, only come when we're actually home. It was just better for us. And also, we are house proud, so a big thing for us is we did make sure we wanted enough warning, so give us a weekend in between them coming through, so we could make sure the house was nice and clean and tidy and everything was in its place, especially with kids. They can make a real mess with their toys and everything lying around. I have heard from other people we probably go a little bit overboard with the cleaning and everything. It's not to be expected to be that neat and tidy, but it's the way that we've done it, and we're just house proud, and it works well. I've got used to it now. We are over 2 years in. I'm used to them coming every 3 months, and actually you eventually get to know your agent, they get to know you, and it's actually not so bad. You really do get used to it. But in the beginning, it was a little bit of a mind shift for me and getting used to. So this was a little bit about getting the container and getting the into the rental and actually starting to make it feel like home. Some of the real positives that I've loved more than anything else, now that we've found a community that we really love, we're starting to really make this feel like home. And one of the things that I love more than anything else, and I still say to my son, probably laughs at me, is when I'm driving into school and I see these little kids. I'm talking, they must be like 8, maybe 7, 6, I don't know, they're tiny little kids. And I see them going to school in the mornings by themselves on their bicycle or walking or on a little push scooter. No parents, nobody watching them. They cross over the roads, over the traffic lights. They are so free. It is wonderful to see how the kids can be so free. They're carefree. They're not worried. There's no danger to them, and that they can be free and go to school. It sounds silly, just going to school, but that's not something we were used to. So I love seeing that. I love seeing on the weekends so often, and still now in the area we're in. We'll wake up on a Saturday morning, you can look out the window and you can see people down from at the bottom by the park, playing with their kids at the park. You can see people going for runs, people riding around on their bicycles, moms and dads pushing prams with babies. It's like such a community of family, and I really, really love it. And people running and getting fit, and I love it. Kiwis probably take it a little bit far. They come rain or shine, they'll be out there. I'm not so keen on getting out in the rain and going for a walk and getting out with the family. Preferred when it can be a cloudy day, but not so rainy. They don't care. I'll even see with the field where we've got a field right here, big open, well-kept field. It's public field. And they'll play soccer or they'll play cricket. And it can be used by anyone in the public. But they do have events where they have different schools come here and play soccer, and different clubs come play soccer, and they'll play cricket against each other, and they'll stand in the rain even cheering on their kids playing soccer. It's such a family community, and I love it. You'll see at Easter time, I love it that some of the houses, they'll go decorate their gardens with lights and everything for Easter. And a lot of the houses have flag poles here. They'll put up a flag with an Easter bunny on it, or Happy Easter. It's so nice. Not that we celebrate Halloween, but you also see the community at Halloween. They celebrate Halloween and they'll all dress up, and all the families and kids will walk around and go trick-or-treating at all the different homes. It's just the community actually doing. And then my favorite time of year is Christmas. And on our container, all our Christmas lights, we used to decorate our house back home in South Africa with a whole lot of Christmas lights. I brought those across on the container, so at Christmas we could decorate even our rental. Yes, I couldn't nail anything in and screw anything on the outside of the actual house. I had to make a bit of a plan with the way I was putting up my Christmas lights. But it was so awesome to see. I wasn't alone in putting up Christmas lights. The whole neighborhood, there are so many homes that put up Christmas lights, to the point where they even run a competition, which is funded by and promoted by the local agency that sells homes and rents out homes. So they're really driving for the community to pull together at Christmas, for example. And they had prizes for first, second, and third prize for whoever voted for the house with the best lights and decorations. And everybody will walk around, and they will at night when it's dark, and it will be late at night because it's over summer. So, I mean, the sun only goes down after 9. So you'll see all these kids and families walking around during the school holidays in December, leading up to Christmas, looking at houses and looking at all the different lights. And you'll see some people, even with all their decorations, they hire bands, and bands are playing music for the families that are walking around busy viewing the houses on the street. Some of them are handing out like candy and sweets and chocolates and everything like that. It's so awesome to see the community. Over and above the different types of year, like Easter and Halloween and Christmas, what you also get to see is on a regular basis in the area, they get food trucks. So back in South Africa, food trucks wasn't that big a thing for us. It wasn't the norm. But here in the local parks, that grounds that I was talking about where they play soccer and everything right by the house, they'll go and park a whole lot of food trucks. So they tell you in advance that the food trucks are coming out in 2 weeks' time to your area, and all the different types of food trucks will park there. And everybody will then go down at usually at around about 5 o'clock and go buy whatever food they have. They'll take their picnic blankets and they'll take some camper chairs and whatever else, and they'll sit there with their families while the kids are running around and playing, all eating your food that you bought from the food trucks, which is so awesome. And they've got bins that are put out so you can clean up, and afterwards everybody makes sure that all the mess is cleaned up and it's clean, it's tidy, it's wholesome family fun, and it's all just part of the community, which is so cool. Another thing that we're really loving is we are literally 3 kilometers away from the beach. And actually in New Zealand, the beach is generally not far away from most of the places that you live in New Zealand. And to be able to just, where we come from in South Africa, we were in Johannesburg, which is nowhere near a beach. It's probably like 6 hours drive to the nearest beach, if not more. So to be able to be 3 kilometers away from the beach, just a couple of minutes drive, or like half an hour's walk, it's awesome. It's so nice to be able to go to the beach. And the amount of people after work that will go walking on the beach, walking their dogs on the beach, walking families on the beach, riding bicycles on the beach, pushing prams on the beach. It's incredible. It is so nice to see the family vibe and the freedom that people have and how safe it is. It's absolutely awesome. So just getting part of that community. Another thing that we also got to enjoy in the area is even our neighbors. They were so friendly when we moved in, both in the unit we're in now and the unit I was referring to in this podcast. The neighbors got to know us and they're friendly. And okay, we didn't necessarily get together for barbecues or braais or anything yet. We hadn't built up relationships like that. But you get this friendly wave every morning, every evening, whenever you see each other. The one neighbor came across and he gave us a bottle of milk the one time. He says he's going away for 2 weeks and the milk will go off. Do we want the milk? He went fishing, caught hold of the fish. He offered us some fish that we would want. It's so nice, the community. It's really, really awesome. So I'm just sharing just to keep you motivated that, it can be difficult and there's a lot of challenges, but it's so worth it to be able to live and be so free and have the space and see your family and your kids just be able to thrive and not just survive. They're actually thriving, and it's awesome. And as the man of the home and the father, it's this weight that is just lifted off your shoulders where you don't have to constantly be worried about your family's safety and always being on guard. You can actually just let your guard down and just see them be free and happy. It's worth all the money in the world. It's absolutely phenomenal. I'm loving that more than anything else. The other things that we also looked at the rental now that we've moved to is I joined a gym nearby. So this was at a time, so it was a couple of weeks in now of being in country. It was important for me to start getting into a little bit more of a routine, start helping me get my mindset right, not only physically getting healthier at the gym, but it was just a way for me to get into a routine that's a positive routine that could help me start getting settled. It was a way that I could get settled. It also was an opportunity for me where I've started to meet people at the gym, so I can start talking to people, making friends, which I've done over the last 2 years of joining gym, over and above getting healthier and fitter and whatever else. It's just been a nice way for me to get to know people. So that's one of the things that I did. Another example I can give just about community or just the people and the way they are here is I explained to you that I was traveling into town regularly. So I was taking public transport, taking the buses into town. So I was leaving the one car that we had behind for my wife, and she was using that. So the car's battery started giving trouble and there was an issue with it. We did take out AA. So we did have an AA membership. It's one of the things we agreed to do. So again, all depends on your budget. So we were blessed enough to be able to have that. So we had AA. She was able to call AA. Within minutes they were there. The guy was so helpful to the point where he was telling her where she could go to get a different battery that was actually cheaper versus buying one from AA directly, and it was more expensive. They were so helpful. They really go out of their way to help, and so friendly. So really, really awesome. So I think I just wanted to carry on with my journey and just give you a little bit of hope. Although over the last few podcasts in the beginning, I've told you all the challenges, and some people may be thinking, Jesus, and I can't believe you even still there and you actually made it through all of this. And that's why one of the podcasts I even said, you have to have grit. You really have to push on through. But I just wanted to share with you and tell you that it's worth it. I've just shared a little bit of what we're experiencing now that we're a year, 2 years in. You start experiencing that after a year, 2 years in, of the community, of the freedom, of the sense of just that relief that you don't have to be on your guard all the time. It's awesome. It really is so worth it, especially when you see the smiles on your kids' faces and you can see the opportunities for them. It's fantastic. I'm loving the Christmases and the Easters and all the holidays and the kids running around and the family vibe in the community. It's absolutely awesome. So it's really what we're enjoying. So maybe that's what I really wanted to share in this podcast, is just carrying on the journey, getting to the point where we finally had a home, and just sharing a little bit of how nice it has been being in a home where we've been in for a few months. We did have a bit of a downer just before Christmas of the first year of being here. We were told by our landlord that they wanted to move back into the home, so they were going to end the lease early, which was a pain, especially just before Christmas. But one of the nice things is, because we had now moved home so many times, we really knew what we needed to do to get into another rental. I am going to do a podcast and probably also do a YouTube video on how to secure a rental and how my wife went about that. It really works well. Every single rental, and we are in our 4th rental now within 2 years. We have never been turned down from a rental. I'm not saying it's foolproof, but it really is a good process that she uses. So I think it'll be good to share on a podcast as well as a YouTube video. So although we had been given notice just before Christmas, we didn't panic. We've been through tougher things, and we knew you'd be able to secure a rental. It was a little bit difficult over the Christmas New Year period because a lot of places closed down, so a lot of people go on leave and stuff like that, so it did delay it a little bit. But like I also mentioned on one of my previous podcasts, and I will go into the podcast around renting, and is the turnaround is pretty quick. Once they advertise a place that's available, you can move in pretty quick, within a number of days to a week, 2 weeks. So you can find a place quite quickly and secure it. As long as you know what to do, how to do it, and that's what I'll go through in the podcast, we could get it done. So we did have to move one more time, and it was just after Christmas, so in the beginning of the new year in 2024, we did have to move. But that is the property that we are in at the moment, and we are now currently in our second year. We're at the beginning of our second year in that property, so we've already been in that property for a year. We found one that's probably less than 1 kilometer away from the previous home. We wanted to stay in the area for all the reasons I was sharing with you, as well as the kids are in the school now. They're well settled. So it was a little bit of another curveball that we had to go through, but it wasn't the end of the world. I think you start learning how to deal with things here, and it's so worth it compared to some of the troubles we were facing back home. So I'm still so grateful to be here, and I'm so glad we've pushed on through all the difficulties that we've had to be able to be at the point we're at now, where we're starting to really feel like New Zealand is our home. I can see how the kids are happy. I can see how they're thriving. Is it perfect? Have we got everything sorted out? No, not yet. But we're still pushing forward, and I'm very confident we will make this work. We're on track to get our permanent residency in the next couple of months, so very excited about that. And then we just sit it out to get our citizenship. So we're definitely on the right track. And we got a lot of goals. We got goals of buying a home and all kinds of things. So I'll talk through that as we go. But just talking through the first year, it's tough. It's not easy, but it's so doable. I think maybe I want to close off with just letting you guys know, please, please, please don't give up. You know, there's going to be challenges. It can be really, really tough. And everybody has their own journey and everybody has their own story. But it's extremely heartbreaking when I hear of people that have come across that, one, haven't been prepared enough, haven't done enough planning, haven't done enough research, and they encountered troubles that could have been avoided had they just done a bit more research. And that's also one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast. If you can learn from me and do that a little bit better than we did and have a softer landing, that's the whole purpose of this. So with that said, I just want to ask, please help me share this podcast. If there's anybody that you know could value from hearing this message and this journey and my story that could help them, and you know they're on their way or thinking about coming to New Zealand, please share it with them so it can help them too. If you feel this is helping you, please go to my YouTube channel. It's at Soft Landing NZ, and subscribe, and make sure you get the notifications, because that's where all my podcasts will be and all my YouTube videos are going to be. so that you can also I'm going to constantly share stuff and information around. Like I said, the renting is one of the ones that I'm going to share on. Schooling is another one that I'm going to share on. I have done a podcast on the costs of living in New Zealand, and I will be doing YouTube tutorials on a lot of this stuff as well. So please follow me. Go to my YouTube channel at Soft Landing NZ and subscribe. And I think that's enough for today. I've shared a little bit more of the journey. Maybe the next one I'll do will be on renting. With that, just wanted to thank you guys for taking the time to listen to me. I really hope this is adding value. So if it is, leave me some comments as well. Be nice to hear back from you guys. It helps motivate me to continue doing these podcasts and sharing this information. You guys, thanks very much. And just enjoy the rest of your day and keep well, keep safe, and we will speak to you soon.